Okay, we talked a lot about diversity today, so I was wondering, as representatives of the fighting game community, you've probably heard people who have sort of bias. I don't know where they get the opinion from about like esport games not being as intellectual as like a game like Portal or something. And I was really curious what you have to say as representatives.
I think it's very intellectual. There's a lot of mental that goes into a fighting game. You have to kind of get into your opponent's mind. Having a prior knowledge to your opponent is very helpful. You have to understand the information of the game, like frame data, and the ability of the character you're playing against as well as your own. So there's a lot of mental thinking that goes on the fly in a fighting game. It's very important. It's not just, as I said earlier, pressing buttons.
Yeah, the psychology that comes into playing a fighting game effectively is out of this world. I mean, you have players who are known for studying hours upon hours upon hours of footage of their opponents that they perceive themselves playing against. Because you're trying to learn how they react to the next situation. If they feel pressure, what do they do? How do they react? So I mean, when people say, there's different, in every aspect of competitive gaming, there are different skill sets that kind of pop up. Especially when you look at like one of the larger sports with the exception of StarCraft, that whole team aspect is one thing that's always good. But of course, there's certain like you said with frame data, there's certain skill sets in fighting games that are kind of, I'd say, they're not talked about as much as they should be, but they are extremely intellectual games.
Yeah, what you were talking about really reminds me of me watching Stanley Kubrick films. Like some stuff you don't follow in the first time, but like after you rewatch it again and again,
Yeah.
you catch up on it.
Yeah.
And that's like the same sort of skills you have.
Yeah, I mean, it's amazing to see these players be able to adapt to that and see that information on the fly. I know when I'm commentating, I'm like, oh, I didn't see it until like 3 days later. So I mean, it just shows how deep the rabbit hole goes with some of these games and how impressive these players are.
Yeah, like directing's a skill, acting's a skill, playing's a skill, and commentating's a skill.
I definitely think that every single match that you play is different. It doesn't matter if you play this person with this team and you play another person who plays the same exact team, it'll be two completely different matches. You got to take into consideration that what you see in fighting games may not necessarily be exactly what it is. You have frame data, you have to know what you press, how safe you're going to be on block, how safe you're going to be on hit. You have to know every single aspect. You have to be able to adapt to your opponent. If they can change the game, you have to be able to keep up with that change of pace as well. If you get stuck behind, then you might lose an entire match, especially at top level play. So you have to really focus and study up and know exactly what you're looking to do in every single match.
Right, and even speaking of that, you can play 30 different people from 30 different regions. Each one of them can have their own different take on the game. We usually hear that East Coast is more defensive minded, West Coast is more about offense and rushing down.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, and apparently that carries over to everything, including like Magic the Gathering.
Oh, really? Wow. Yeah.
But it's really interesting seeing how players develop from their local scenes as well.
Okay.
And I'd also add that playing fighting games has made me a lot better at other games that I used to
really?
play.
Well,
I used to compete in shooters, and I also had world records in Tetris. And
Wow.
then learning fighting games and then going back to these other genres and competing, I feel like my mind has been opened up. Like I've learned this new trait all of a sudden that I can apply to every other genre. And it could come down to movement, it could come down to grenade placement, it could come down to something as small as being able to read my opponent's next move. And it all was strengthened by learning fighting games.
what do you call in Melee when you like hug the wall or whatever?
Hedgehogging.
Hedgehogging, yeah, that's a skill too. Well, depending on what kind of tournament, probably the bigger mainstream tournaments don't have it, but like the smaller ones probably allow it.
Even at the larger events, you see players. That's just like one of the main fundamentals in the Smash series for competitive play, and you see how many players still are subpar. It's something that needs to be worked on by a lot of players.
Yeah, you need to know the frame data for that.
Yeah, I'm going to always talk about Mitsu King, a guy who had two controllers doing frame by frame knowledge. Like there was no like Brady guide released with frame data. He did it all by hand, and just showing about like that kind of devotion, that it's out of this world.
That's the thing that separates you from being a good player and a great player.
Right.
Like, definitely. You gotta put in the work.
Yeah.